Ready.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, folks. And now, to bring the man of the hour up.
Yep,
Hello, can you hear me?
yes we can.
All right.
Starting the event right now. All right.
We are a go.
Yes, we are.
Well,
We're
hello.
good to
Thank
go.
you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for joining us and accepting.
Anyway, hello,
Ooh.
everyone. Welcome to the Q&A with Tracy Yardley. Yeah, I'm joined with my host here, the Radar.
Hello, everybody. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. Actually, this is fantastic, and I'm happy to be here with dear old Chris here, my tag team partner.
Yes.
And yeah, I obviously as it says in the title, we are here with Sonic artist Tracy Yardley.
Hello.
Indeed.
If any of you guys don't know him or his work, what are you doing?
Allow him to talk about it.
Yeah, Tracy, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Well, again, if you don't know who I am, why are you here? But if you are, I appreciate you coming to listen and ask questions. My name is Tracy Yardley. I've worked with Sonic the Hedgehog comics for almost 20 years now, starting with Archie. Sonic X was the first comic books that I did work for in the very tail end of 2005, and those were published first quarter, I think, of 2006. And then I also, of course, almost immediately started working on the regular Sonic book with Archie also. Moved on to do the majority of the Sonic Universe books. And of course, whenever the title went over to IDW, I moved over there too, started with issue 1, and I don't do nearly as many as I used to, but I still keep involved as much as I'm able.
Understandable.
You have a very long history that your art style pretty much just is, it just when people see it just screams, ah, yes, Sonic comic. Like it's very distinct, and we love
That's
to
great.
we love to see you in action whenever we do.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun for sure, but it's also a heck of a lot of work, which is why I don't do it as much anymore.
Understandable.
If you're
Especially
not familiar with
nowadays.
if you're not familiar with what I currently do, the last couple of years I've basically been just doing convention style sketches and selling those. But that only works because I have such a long history with the property, and people know me for it. So it's definitely very flattering to think that people, equate my art style so much with Sonic the Hedgehog.
I have seen those sketches shown up and on your shop as well, which have a lot of them are very creative. I think there was one that you had done. You've done a few shadows, and then I
Quite
think
a few.
you definitely did one of Infinite. I'm fairly certain you did.
I
From
did,
a
yes.
while ago.
I've done 2 or 3 infinites, not nearly as many as Shadow, but yes, I've done a few infinites. A lot of
You
Scourges also. Scourge is very popular.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
All right.
but yeah, um, I am actually going to speaking of Tracy's art, I will be putting up a look at one of his previous released artworks from IDW. But Chris, would you be cool with answering the first question that was provided to us by our good friend Kevin?
All right. All right. From Kevin, since he couldn't make it, yes. What was it like working on the Archie comic compared to working on the IDW comic?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's in most respects it's pretty much the same in terms of like the actual mechanics of how it's done. I get an email from the editor, and then I receive the script and I review the script. And whenever I start working, I do thumbnails. What's called a thumbnail drawing, real little sketchy drawings of each page, right? And then I translate that onto the final page. With Archie, I used to do pretty much most of the time just pencils. And then somebody else like either Jim Amish or Terry Austin would do the inks. And back then I would work on physical paper and I would mail it to them when it was done. And then of course it would go on to the letterer and the colorist and so on and so forth. And that's still basically the same process here with IDW. I get an email. I sign a little work for hire contract for each individual story now with IDW, and then same thing. I go through the process of drawing it, but I work all digitally now for the most part in terms of the comics, just because it's quicker and easier to make changes. And I use a iPad Pro. I use a cheap little $20 program called Comic Draw, which is not nearly as comprehensive as something like Clip Studio, but it's fine-tuned and perfect for drawing comics, as the name would imply. Particularly black and white. It does color, not fantastically well, but I can do the basic colors in there and finish things up in Photoshop. But yeah, for drawing pencils and inks for comics, it's great. It's perfect. Very easy to use. So that differs in terms of like the actual work. I used to do things traditionally. Now I do them digitally. But other than that, the only main difference between Archie and IDW is just Sega. They used to be pretty hands-off up until about, I guess, after that Mega Man crossover. Once they had to work with other IP holders, they started scrutinizing things a lot more. And with IDW, they're very, very nitpicky about every little thing. So visually speaking, the details have to be perfect. So there's lots of corrections on just about every page, which is not really that fun to do. But, it is what it is. So that's about it. Yeah, I think that really pretty sums it up.
Again, you've certainly seen a lot of things like change, not only with how as you were mentioning, you've gone from doing a lot of the comic work traditionally and then mostly doing it digitally, but you still do traditional work. And then as well
Yes.
as a lot of the rules established for the Sonic comic work change over the years. And I just it is truly remarkable. I know that you started around the same time that Ian was working on the comics for Archie, and
Yes, we
the fact that
started on
you
the
two,
same issue, actually. Issue 160, we both
yes,
started at the same time.
yes, you two pretty much are intertwined, and then going on to start issue 1 of IDW as well. It's like the fact that you two are still doing stuff to this day it is really remarkable, and we're happy that you guys are still sticking around.
Sure. Yeah, it's very unusual. I know what an abnormal case I am. Most people don't work in the same comic book for 20 years, or off and on anyway. But yeah, I'm very
Right.
happy to do it. I'm glad that the fans enjoy my work, and everyone is happy to have me continue with the property. I'll do it as long as I can.
Happy to hear that. A lot of us fans are very happy to hear that.
Indeed.
Chris, if I may be able to ask the next question.
Go right ahead. I'm not gonna stop
Yeah.
you.
And audience, don't forget, make sure to raise your hand, because we will be calling. If you are okay with it, we'll be calling you up to ask questions to Tracy in voice. If you guys are cool with that. So yeah, but I will now go ahead and take on this question here from Supersonic 2073. Hello Tracy, it's a great honor for me to meet you. Big fan of your style. Question here is, who are your favorite artists from Archie Sonic and IDW Sonic?
Well, that's a tough one. They're all great. There's so many. One of the many one of the reasons I was comfortable stepping away from the book was I knew it was in perfectly good hands. Yeah, I mean, after doing it for so long, I kind of needed a break a little bit. But as far as the other artists go, back in the olden days, of course, Jay Axer was great. I love Don Best's style. I'm trying to think of who else. Oh, Manny Gallen from the Knuckles series. I
There's so
really
many
liked
of them.
his work on that.
It's hard to get.
Hmm?
I was saying it's so
There's
many
so
to
many to keep track of.
keep
I'm
track of
assuming
or
that's
to
what Chris
remember.
said.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and of course, everybody on the new, almost everybody on the new books they're just all fantastic. I would say, in a lot of ways, more technically proficient than I am. Just very skilled and very talented artists all around working on the new books. In fact, I can't even keep track of how there's a lot of them. Minho, uh, who else?
Minho Kim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My mind is drawing a blank here. I'm working. I'm actually supposed to be doing some work on that Chaotix 30th anniversary book that's coming up shortly. So I know there's a couple of those guys that I'm working with. Because you
Oh,
asked me, now I can't remember anybody's name. So,
that's pretty
but
cool to
yeah,
That's gotta be
know.
interesting.
Yeah, because with the 30th, it said that there'd be a various amount of artists working on it. But Min did say that he was working on it.
yes,
And hearing this from you, that's amazing. We love your Chaotix work. I know a few friends who love your Chaotix work, and to hear you doing more, that's awesome. That's really cool.
yep. I'm looking forward to this. Be the first interior pages that I will have drawn in about 2 years. So,
Wow. We can't wait to
Nice.
see it and to see how it all is executed.
yeah, I think it's
Um,
a
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool story. I just read the script the other day from Danny, and it's really, really cool. Very neat ideas, very tight, fun script. I think everyone will enjoy it pretty thoroughly.
Taking your word for it, that's for sure. Uh, but yes, now, um, no, thank you, Supersonic Toy 73 for your question. Um, and now now we're going to be able to call up someone from the audience. Tracy, if you would like, as our guest, to pick the first person to come up, just choose out of anyone who has their hands up
Okay,
currently.
well, the first one I
And
see
I'll
here is
bring them
this
up.
Vivacious Vixen, I would assume. It
Yeah.
looks like.
Yes. Yes.
Let's bring them up.
Vivi, come on up. I know you.
Hello, Radar. Hello, Tracy.
Oh,
I'm so happy to be here. What's it? Tracy, I'm happy to meet you again because I met you at my first Comic Con that I went to last year. I think I was one of your first customers. What was it when I went there? So it's
That's
happy. I'm
cool.
glad to see you again.
Well, I thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
I have a question. Um, so it's more of kind of like a life question, like kind of like a reflection kind of question. What do you think success means as an artist to you, in like your own opinion, and has your opinion of success changed over the years?
It's an interesting question. As far as success as an artist goes, it could vary wildly between individuals and what you want to achieve. I would say that I'm pretty successful in terms of when I was young. It's a little embarrassing to it, but but everybody has things they want to achieve, and they want to be known, and they want to be validated, right? So when I was a young child, a teenager, I would get jealous of stars like Michael Jordan or whatever, because everybody knows who they are, and I had
Yeah.
a little something to prove. I wanted people to appreciate my art, and so that's one thing that certainly I've achieved. The Sonic fans certainly know who I am, and they love what I do, and I think that's you know that is a big part of what I consider to be success personally. I mean, not everybody has to have a lot of validation or fame, if you want to put it that way, or whatever. I certainly wouldn't be known very well outside of the circle of Sonic the Hedgehog fans, and that's fine. um, I'm not going to lie and say that I don't appreciate the small particular fame that I have, and I'm very happy to have that. But also, success could be. Comics don't make a lot of money. They never have, never will, unless you're one of the very few, very odd cases like Adam Hughes or Jim Lee or something like that, where you can make loads and loads of money off your artwork. Those are strange, unusual cases, though. Or there are, of course, the types like, Jim Davis Garfield, or Charles Schultz Peanuts, or Kirkman's Walking Dead, things like that. And it's the same thing. The comics aren't what make them money. It's ancillary media, movies, TV shows, merchandise. That's the stuff that brings a lot of fortune to those creators. But their creation has to take off and have a following first. Obviously, since I didn't create Sonic the Hedgehog, I don't I won't ever make a whole lot of money off of it. I carve out what I can, and it work. My career works for me because I'm married and my wife has a regular 9-to-5 job. She's a teacher, so she collects a monthly paycheck, and I make money here and there as I can, and together we make it work. So I definitely would say that I'm successful in that regard too, that I've been able to do this as my full-time job for so long. And again, that wouldn't be the case without fans who support my work. So I'm infinitely grateful to everyone who buys my work and appreciates it and sees me at conventions and all that stuff. So I would definitely say that, yeah, I have a lot of success in my chosen field as a comic artist, and specifically, of course, as a Sonic the Hedgehog artist.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
very grateful. I know what an odd situation I'm in, and I'm happy to have it. So
Well, thank you so much for answering my question.
you're welcome.
I hope you have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us, Vivi. It's always nice to see you. Chris, if you have a question, if you do have a question, you're more than welcome to ask. If not, then I can ask one of my questions.
Go right ahead. I don't really have any questions. I've already asked
Well,
most
all
of
right
mine
then.
already.
Well, all right then. So yeah, I'll go ahead and ask this, Tracy. What would you say has been let me see here. What would you say was the best work you've done on both Archie and IDW? Like, it could be either your interiors or your cover artworks. It could be literally anything that you
That's
think is like, oh, this is the best I have done myself.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I've done a lot of books. Sometimes I forget how many I've done, and what issues there are. Like, everyone always asks what my favorite issues are, and my answer to that is always issue 168 and 169 early on in my run with Archie, because I really hit my stride with those two issues. I really got a good handle on how to draw the characters, and Jim Amish suggested that I put a lot more spot black into my work, which, if you don't know that term, that just means shadows, areas of solid black, that are on the page. Really kind of helps add a little dimension and dynamism to the page if you have a lot of, nice heavy blacks here and there. That was a fun story that Ian wrote with all the Chaos Emeralds from the various planets coming together. I had Super Shadow, Super Sonic, Super Tails, all that kind of fun stuff. I got to design and draw that Adam Tommy character. It was just a really cool and weird set of issues. I got to do my first covers on those issues too. So, I look back at those and they still hold up pretty well, I'd say. I don't know. And as far as the old Archie books, issue 175, of course, that was a really fun milestone issue that I got to draw. I think it still looks pretty decent. I don't know. Some of my older drawings, I had a looser style. I didn't stay as on model as I do these days. Again, partly because we weren't required to, and I just didn't think about it. I was just a little bit more quick and loose with my artwork. And I think there's a quality to those older books that I kind of miss, that I don't have. I think my artwork is a lot stiffer and not as I don't want to say not dynamic. It's just a different sort of dynamic. They were a little more fluid and more energetic, I think, in a lot of ways in the old days. But the newer books like IDW, working digitally, I think one of the, that, but the Battle for Angel Island issue, I forget whichever issue it was, that like 7, 8, or 9 or 10. No, it would have been like 9, 10, or 11. Where like the scenes were like Super Blaze is hurling fireballs and breaking off giant wings of the off of Angel Island, and big group battle scenes and stuff and all that. That kind of stuff I think is a pretty good work. Would have been a lot more difficult to do on a penciled page traditionally, because when you work with digital, you can zoom in. My eyes aren't very good, so I can zoom in and really get down to some details and work with layers and change things and all that stuff a lot easier. It's much easier to make changes when you work digitally. You can resize things, flip it, whatever you need to do. So yeah, I would say that Battle for Angel Island stuff was pretty good overall. I enjoyed that. I think in terms of dynamic stuff that I've done on the newer books, that was probably up there.
One aerial shot of Angel Island, it truly is pretty amazing stuff. I love seeing all of like, oh hey, look, there's Marble Garden. Hey, there's Carnival Night. It's like, I really appreciated that. And yeah, you're right. Ha, the Egg Fleet didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
It was that time with Neo Metal Sonic was fun.
Yeah, I got to design that new version of him for that, the Metal Overlord and all. That was a lot of fun and cool stuff to draw for sure. So.
And then Super Neo Metal Sonic ended up actually showing up in Sonic Speed Simulator. Actually,
Yeah, I
like
thought that was
being
pretty
an
cool. I don't know
official
if I assume they probably got that from the comic, but
They
I
probably
mean,
did.
I'm fairly certain IDW is the only time he had shown up in a super form. So
yeah, I think it's not a question anyone asked, but I think it's pretty cool that they're incorporating a lot more of the comic stuff in the at least in the outer edges of Sonic thing. None of them, aside from Tangle's name being dropped in Sonic Frontiers. Nobody's appeared in an official game yet, but they're in a lot of the mobile games. And they got toys and all kinds of cool stuff now. Yeah.
Crossworlds might
Chris,
be one of the
we are
games.
hoping for Crossworlds.
That would be sweet.
That's what
That'd be pretty cool. No reason they couldn't throw them in there, really.
All right. Like we got Prime characters in there.
Do they? Oh, that's cool.
Chris, if you're I know you said you didn't have a question, but you're more than welcome to take on one of our text questions that we have down there before we pick someone up.
Yep. And that's why Pendulum's gonna go with start off with Rush. They ask Tracy, what other have you done other than Sonic? Or in this case, what was the other work you've ever done aside from Sonic?
Yeah, well, not a tremendous amount. Unfortunately, there's lots of things I'd like to draw. But the other thing, like right at the same time, or in fact, just before I started on Sonic, well, let me back up. Before I was even a professional, I used to work during the day at a gas station, and I would go home at night and draw comics, our own comics, that we would have printed at the local print shop, and what you would call an ash can comic, like just 8.5 by 11 paper folded over, black and white. And we would take those to like conventions and stuff, to sell, just to get people to see our work, and had a little junky website that I made with Dreamweaver before there were sites that did it for you. Anyway, that was a little book called "What You Had Nate and Steve," but I did 3 issues of that, 24 pages each, and that's what helped get us more professional work. I went to school with Sophie Campbell, who does Ninja Turtles and Mothra and all kinds of other cool comics. She's amazing. Supergirl she does now. Anyway, but she got a job with Tokyo Pop, who had come to SCAD, looking for young artists to exploit. To do original English language graphic novels, and whenever she got a gig with them, she told them to come look at our work, and they did, and they offered us the chance to do that. So we did Riding Shotgun. We developed a graphic novel series for them. It's about assassins. We got to do 2 issues, 2 volumes of that. The first one came out in 2006. I started working on that just like a few months before I got the gig with Archie Sonic. So I was doing that and Archie at the same time at the outset. And then we did a second volume of Riding Shotgun in 2008. Came out in 2008. So and Tokyo Pop, the company, fell apart before we ever got to do issue 3 and finish it up. So that kind of sucks. But, and again, that was them. That company was just exploiting young artists to build IP that they could spin out into ancillary media like movies and TV shows. They even did a little 6-minute pilot cartoon for, what was it, Spike TV, which me and Nate, who created the book, we really didn't like because it was not what we were wanting to, not the direction we wanted the thing to go in. But it didn't fly anyway, so we weren't too worried. We weren't too upset to see it not succeed. Unfortunately,
understandable.
I mean, I would have been happy if it had. I guess I probably would have made some money out of it, but that was we did that book, and it was some years. The other things I've done whenever there was that year's span between Archie and IDW, Archie Comics was very good enough to let me and Ian do another project that they had called Cosmo. It was a character from back in 1955. They had a little alien character from Mars called Cosmo and his buddy and all their adventures and stuff. And that I think the original Cosmo was only like 5 or 10 issues or something. I don't think it really took off. So Vin Lavallo, the editor on Sonic, he kind of led the way on revamping the characters and the story and all that. And we did 5-issue miniseries of Cosmo, which had a little trade paperback and won some sort of school library award, which was kind of cool for comics. And I thought it was a lot of fun because I had a lot of creative freedom on that. That was really great. Aside from the main characters that Vin designed, I basically got to design everything else, all the ships and planets and creatures and things. And then we did another 5-issue miniseries called Cosmo, the Mighty Martian, which I think the second 5 issues were even more fun and more variety and cool locations and fun stuff going on in that. Of course, they unfortunately did not collect that in a trade, and we haven't done any more issues of that since, unfortunately, but I would be very happy to do that some more. That was a lot of fun. And then over the pandemic, it took me maybe 3 years or so to do a 4-issue miniseries of Felix the Cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun to draw for sure. I enjoyed the actual work of it, but that was owned NBC Universal DreamWorks conglomerate company owns Felix the Cat, and they don't really do comics. They weren't prepared or set up to do comics. They didn't know how to they were not very fun to work with. Let's put it that way. And then same thing, very much like Sega, they were very, very, very extremely arbitrarily nitpicky about all the little details. And it just was not a lot of fun to do. So I'm glad that I did. I think the end product turned out pretty well. I think you could still find it, buy it off of Rocket Ship Entertainment, I believe. ended up publishing it.
Yes, I can find it here right now. I also know that you got to work with Matt Herms on Felix. In
Yes,
which
well, he did the first issue, and then again because it was during the pandemic and various problems with the production of the book, he wasn't able to do the other three issues. I forget now off the top of my head. It was another gentleman that I've worked with on various things. He's finished up the other three issues.
Oh,
nice to know, like, yeah, your stuff. I'm actually gonna let's see if I can pull up. Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and pull up both Felix and Cosmo because I am aware of the work that you guys had done on Cosmo. Um, Fairly certain I saw some social posts about it. And yeah, no, you for just as long as you've been working on Sonic, you've just been working on comics in general. Like you just have such um an extensive timeline of just drawing characters, drawing universes, drawing all these stories and such. Um like
Well,
what else could you possibly do next?
oh, I don't know. There's lots of things. I'm glad that you characterize my work in that way, but I would say that I have a pretty small list of credits. There's lots of things I would love to draw. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I would love to do that. I think I would be a good fit for the Saturday morning adventures they have. It'd be cool to draw things like Ghostbusters or Transformers or any of that, although, you know, and I probably could, but I don't think my art style is necessarily the best match for those sorts of things. Yeah, there's all kinds of things I'd love to do. I have some original ideas that I'd like to develop, but I just don't have time. And maybe I will someday. But run a Kickstarter or whatever. But I would have to do a lot of legwork beforehand, which is difficult.
right.
Just don't have time to do speculative work.
Well, I hope you do eventually find the time. Like, yeah, just put all of the stuff you want to do out there. I know a lot of us would be advocating for it.
Yeah, well, maybe in a few more years, when my kids are out of school and all, I theoretically might have some more time to devote to those sorts of things.
Understandable. We done those two questions, so now we can bring someone up. Chris, do you want to bring someone up next?
Yeah, let's bring up Humphrey Rabbit.
Oh, yeah, I think I know them. Yeah.
Come on up. If they're there. Up they're there.
They are.
Hello.
Hi. Oh my god.
You good?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
Cool. This is my first time on one of these.
Cool. I'm glad you could be here.
Well, first I'd like to say, Tracy, I've been a big fan of your Sonic work.
It's a little hard to make out what you're saying there. Could you repeat that?
I'm a really big fan of your Sonic work.
Oh, thank you. Well, I appreciate that.
I've actually used issues that you do as guides for my own Sonics before.
Yeah.
One question that I've wanted to know is how are you able to draw Eggman easily?
How do I draw Eggman? Well, he is actually he's a bit difficult. I really don't know how to explain it in words. It's funny whenever lots of people ask me about, how do they improve on art and things like that. I would say that not knowing your or anyone else's level of ability with drawing, I would suggest from the very absolute beginner's level when I was a young child, and I would recommend this for anybody, is to literally trace the things that you want to learn how to draw just a couple times. Get some of the official artwork of Dr. Eggman. When I was a kid, they used to have carbon paper, tracing paper. I would sit down and trace pictures of Mickey Mouse and things like that. And what that will do to help you, or of course nowadays they have light tables, or you could theoretically put it on an iPad and draw over it on a separate layer or something like that. So there are methods of tracing. What that can do for you is train and help you get that muscle memory of drawing a certain thing. Now, once you've done that a couple times, then you move on to the traditional way of observing whatever it is you're drawing and then copying it that way. Nobody learns to draw something without looking at it and referring to it. So, I would just, there's no other way to do it than practice. I would suggest if you want to get better at drawing Eggman, just look at all the different, as many different pictures of him from different angles that you can find. You could even theoretically get one of those little, the action figures of him now and stand him there and look at him in 3 dimensions. And just practice drawing him over and over again. Eventually it'll click. He is a very strange character. He has no real neck, so to speak. His body is an odd shape. He's very difficult to draw. I started drawing the new version of Dr. Eggman based off of the Sonic X design, which is essentially the same as the other ones, but there are small differences. So just a lot of practice, essentially. It just takes a lot of time to draw these characters. They are, Sonic and all of them are deceptively difficult to draw because they're like, Sonic is very much made up of almost geometric shapes. So, you don't necessarily have to have clean lines, but that's usually the look of Sonic, is very sharp, clean lines and those specific shapes. And if it's a little bit weird or a little bit off, you can tell that something is wrong, but you might not be able to exactly say what's wrong, if you understand me. So generally, it just takes a lot of practice.
I understand, and thank you for your advice.
No problem. Good luck on your artistic endeavors.
Thank you. Can I ask a second question? Quick.
Sure,
You
that's
can
fine.
ask-
I don't mind.
We will. I will say. Did forget to mention this actually. Hopsy, you will be able to answer a second question once we are able to get through everyone else's first question. So if you stick around, we will bring you back up, if that's okay.
Sure, that's fine.
All right, thank you, and that goes for everyone else as well. So keep that in mind. Don't worry, we'll get to your second questions if you have them. But in the meantime, thank you though, Hopsy. That was sweet. That was sweet.
Thanks. And thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Nope. Another reminder: if you guys aren't able to come up to ask your console, type it out in the discussion chat and ping one of me or Radar so we can see your question.
Yes. If you guys can't come up and voice, text questions are just as okay. They are more than okay. Speaking of which, Chris, did you want to go ahead and ask another text question? I still need to get one of my questions in order.
Yeah. While you're doing that, let me go to one of the other pin questions that I had pinned. All right, from the Joyful Songbird, they asked, I guess it's 2 questions in one. They said you can answer either one of them. They asked, my question is during Archie Comics during the Archie Comics era, was there any completed, uncompleted, or scrapped stories that you made drawings for the comic book arc that? Let me see. For the comic book arc that you were sad that remain unseen, or what was your favorite Sonic comic arc that you had fun doing the most?
I see what's happening here.
I got you.
Um,
Well, it is a bit of a two thing. I already kind of answered that one question, which was my favorite, was the Order from Chaos. That was one of my favorites for sure. Um, things that didn't get done. We didn't really scrap a lot of stuff, that's for sure. Of course, at the very end of Archie, there was the last part of the well, was it? Yeah, was it the last part of the Genesis of a Hero? I think they called that series, where we kind of again for the second or third time adapted the old Sega games, Genesis games. We did not. The Sonic and Knuckles episode issue did not get printed. Sonic CD was the last one that saw print, and the Sonic and Knuckles one was completed. That was finished and just didn't get put out. So that's a real shame. And then the issue after that, which would have been a new story arc, where all the freedom fighters kind of go off in separate directions and do different things. I did, I think, about seven or 8 pages of that when we had to stop production. So yeah, definitely, it's unfortunate that didn't get to be printed. I did actually put those pages on Twitter, I think it was at the time, and and of course sold them too. You know, but so they are technically out there somewhere. You can see them. But yes, it would have been nice if they did, at the very minimum, if they could have at least finished out that that Genesis arc that they were doing with the Sonic and Knuckles. That would have been nice to finish that out at least. So, and on a related note, you know, again with the arc, I'm glad that the whole Sonic Unleashed, you know, mega epic arc that they did with that did get to finish out, thankfully. And while it's not, you know, necessarily an ultimate end for, or one that everybody would have expected for the Archie series, it did put somewhat of a small ending to the book. You know, we had a nice ending to that huge giant arc, and things were kind of good at the end of it. You know, we got a happy ending there for that part. So it would have been a real shame if that had ended without any closure. So at least we got that.
Yeah, I believe the pages for the end of Genesis of a Hero, we would have gotten to have seen the whole Hidden Palace and Sky Sanctuary. We would have been able to have seen that and everything in your style. And I know a lot of people were, it's like like if it had have come out, you probably would have been like the first to have like brought Mechasonic Mark II into like the you know like the in actual like, oh look, like here's, it's not a cameo, it is actually Mechasonic's like proper reappearance in a Sonic comic.
Yeah, he was in
And
there. They did fight with him, so he did
yeah,
appear.
like I know that a lot of people really like the way you drew it, and it is a shame that we didn't get to see it in fruition, but we're happy that the pages were at least saved. And I know a lot of them have been archived very much already, so thank you for putting them out there for everyone to see nonetheless.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm glad I was able to.
and then for Universe, because you had mentioned it, remind me, yeah, there was the one where the freedom fighters were going to be going off in their own ways. I know that um people attempted to restore one of Adam Bryce Thomas's works, the one with Sonic and Antoine. Um I think I may know you said you were working on one of them. I believe I may know which one, but
Well, I
did
was
you have
going to
any
be
recollection?
moving back over to the regular Sonic book instead of Sonic Universe.
Hmm.
I would have done issue, I forget what it was now. 290 something. I don't remember.
It has been a
295 or
while, don't
6. I
worry.
don't recall what issue it was. So yes, I would have been doing that. There was a scene where Sonic was in the hilltop zone. I recall that specifically, drawing that zone from the game Sonic 2. And yeah, I think that whole Freedom Fighter story was going to take place across both Sonic and Sonic Universe. So that would have been interesting.
Here we go. I did end up finding it. The arc going on from 292, and yeah, I see what you mean now. Some of your cover artworks are here archived as well. You even did one that was based off of Mania at the time.
Yeah, did that not get printed? I guess not. I don't recall. There was going to be a little story about a Sonic Man heroes,
Yeah.
sort of tokusatsu Power Rangers kind of thing, taking place in Sonic's world, where they parody the adventures of Sonic and friends only as Power Ranger style heroes. Yes, that would have taken place, I guess, in the Metropolis, or not Metropolis. Whatever that's
Studiopolis.
Studiopolis. Yes. So that was going to be the thing. I know there was supposed to have been a story. I'd have zero knowledge of it except for the cover. There was going to be some kind of story that had something to do with ghosts. I did the cover art for it. And it might have been 2 issues, like 295 or 296 again or something. I forget. Where those ghosts from that Unleashed short show up, where the little girl and those other Casper style ghosts are.
Yes.
Yeah, those ghosts with the bow ties, I think they had on. They appeared on a cover. I don't know what the story was supposed to be about. I have no idea. So.
Yeah, and they've all have been archived. You know what? I'll go ahead and I did just put the one there, but I'll pull up all of your ones from that arc in particular, for everyone in the audience to see.
Sure.
Yeah, again, we're happy that the artworks were at least saved in some way, shape, or form. It would have been nice to have seen the stories continue, but we are also at least happy that the Unleashed adaptation ended off on a pretty good note. Felt very symbolic nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that answered the question. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think so. That's really all I could think of that didn't see the light of day. It was just that stuff at the end.
After I put these up here.
All right.
I will answer another text question. Unless someone had already answered before. If not. Yes, the joyful songbird. I was almost about to say the songful joybird.
Yeah, that one's already been
yes,
answered.
your question was answered. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. And well, we haven't gotten to second questions yet, so I'll go ahead and bring up one of my own. Yes. So this is actually something I have been wanting to ask because I'm very much a big fan of IDW Sonic as of right now. And one of the things I know, I have a few friends who know me for this in particular, but I love to see all of the little cameos and background appearances of character designs in the comic. Um, some artists will like throw in something there as like, oh hey, there's a character that's owned by a fan. There's a character that's from a different franchise entirely. There's a reference to a Sega property. It's like I love trying to figure out like what is what that is styled in, like, like the Sonic animals and such. And one of the things that I know that you had done was in issue 18 of IDW Sonic, which Cream and her family debuted in. I'm not sure if you are cool with talking about it, but I know that 2 citizens from Cream's village are meant to be in reference to 2 fans that you were in contact with. And I'm not
at the
sure if you were.
time, yeah,
Yeah.
wouldn't normally do that sort of very, very specific reference for fan characters. They were from, I forget now, Colombia, somewhere. I don't recall now the country they were from. I forget. It's been quite a while. They had been through some sort of a natural disaster or something. Again, I can't even remember the details now. They had some sort of pretty disastrous problem, thing going on in their life. So somebody asked me if I could do that, and it would help make them, cheer them up, and so I did. So that's basically about it.
Uh, it was pretty much that. It was pretty much that simple.
Yeah, that's really all there is to it. Yeah, somebody that has commissioned me a couple times for artwork, also lives in that area. They're somebody they knew that they had in some real, something. Again, I can't recall if it was a natural disaster or something of that sort that had been going on in their friend's life. So they asked if I could put their characters in the comic as a nice way to cheer them up. So that's what it is.
Yeah, I was just curious to know, like, if there was anything else to the process of that, because yeah, like you said,
No, I didn't ask the editors or anything. There was it happened to be that there were just two random characters that showed up in that issue. So I was like, well, here's a good spot to just throw them in there. So
it's similar to what has been done before in previous issues. Like I know that um Jennifer Hernandez and Adam Bryce Thomas had done a few things before the Metal Virus arc as well. It's just you if Sega doesn't turn a blind eye, then it's
again, there I didn't point it out at the time. Again, the
it's
script
just
happened to call for two random um, characters just to be there. So I was like, well, that's a perfect spot to just put them in there. But it didn't matter if they met any sort of design approval or anything. It could have been literally anything, any characters at all that I threw in there. So I was like, well, why not put them here?
it just the puzzle just fell into place pretty much. And I will also be showing that particular panel of the two characters to the audience to give them context.
No, you ever remember those too?
Mm-hmm. I believe I do follow one of the creators of the boy, the white cat. I really like their artwork. They're really cool. I believe they did something like Sonic related a while ago, but yeah, those are the two we're talking about. I was just yeah, again, just curious to know. I do like seeing that sort of thing in the comics, especially when they have like a little story behind them. And yeah. Yeah, thank you, Tracy.
No problem.
And with that being said, I believe now it's my turn to pick someone from the audience, huh?
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. Ooh. We we've got a few folks. Hope it isn't yeah, we've got a few folks here. Let's see if I can pick let me see if I'm gonna be saying this right. Excarnator? Excarnator? I
Yeah, I
hope
think
I'm
that's
saying
it.
that right. Um, yeah, I hope
Like
I'm saying that
instead
right. Yeah,
of
come on up.
escargot, you
Hello?
got the escarnator.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. I'm sorry if I
All
butchered
right.
your name at all.
Yeah, so it's a made-up word of mine.
All's good.
So, so my question for Tracy would be, if you were given the liberty to pitch, to give a pitch for a new series or spin-off for Sonic, what would you like to pitch?
A whole new spin-off, eh? Oh, that's a tough question. Well, I don't generally come up with ideas because I know that they're probably not going to get done, so I don't usually spend a lot of time ruminating on it. The only vague kind of ideas that I've had, and I guarantee probably neither of them would ever get made either, was I'd like to do a story with Shadow. I won't get too into details, I guess, just in case it ever does get done. That would involve the gist of it would involve and how to put it, another character kind of sort of emulating the work that was done with Shadow to create an ultimate life form. And I envision that as like a 4-issue arc, as they generally tend to be for trade paperback sake. That could theoretically be something longer. But Sega's extremely, extremely protective of Shadow, so I don't think they do a lot of stories with him, generally speaking. And then the other thing I would like to do, again, it's not going to happen. I would like to. It would be interesting. Again, I don't know. It wouldn't be necessarily another spin-off. It could be theoretically a story where to either theoretically bring back the Freedom Fighters as they were, they'd obviously be different characters altogether. Just bring those characters back, but that's probably not ever going to happen. Or we could create new characters that are just analogs of them and have them be pretty much, the gist of it would be that they would be hardcore eco-terrorists that are out to destroy Eggman's infrastructure at all cost. I'd like to do a story like that at some point, but I don't know.
That last one actually really sounds interesting. I don't think we've ever had.
Like an alternate universe where it's different.
Yeah, the general, again, speaking about it, it probably never happened now, but it would be interesting to have a story arc of any characters. It doesn't have to be Freedom Fighters specifically, but yeah, just characters that are, not particularly, there have been instances of this in the comic where, characters have questioned Sonic's inability or unwillingness to flat out end Eggman. And there could be, a group of other characters that, intend to do that. And then again, take it and get back to the old Saddam cartoon, the vibe of them. They were essentially a little terrorist cell that would go around blowing up his stuff. Like in the opening credit sequence of Sonic Saturday Morning. They go in there, blow up a dam, and run out, and that was their job for the day. So there's lots of opportunities for stories that could spin out of that, of characters doing what they feel is necessary and right to help curtail or end Eggman's reign, and then they could, in theory, butt heads with Sonic and friends, because their methods are too extreme or whatever, and could theoretically endanger other citizens.
It's like they'll go up against Eggman, but they're kind of being a little bit too much about it with advocating for nature. I believe that's yeah. I think that's what the idea is.
Yeah, well, I mean, advocating just using more extreme methods to try to destroy Eggman's factories and power plants or whatever that he has around, even if it caused trouble or danger for the regular citizens. So again, that'll probably never happen now because I said it out loud. So
and then yeah, I know. And then yeah, you were mentioning about the vibes of Sad AM. I know it's like you had mentioned you felt like your art style would definitely fit the Saturday Morning Adventure series for TNT. I know that there was like people wanting to see like a Saturday Morning Adventure series for Sonic, and we'd see new stories of following the Sad AM series, like something like that.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool, I guess, and interesting. I am of the opinion, and I get it, that fans would love to see those characters and those kinds of stories come back, but they're not going to. So Sega, I don't know what Sega wants, but I can read the writing on the wall. They're not interested in ever doing anything with those characters again, and they're not going to. So,
Mm.
yeah,
They've
they're
been predictable
clearly,
in what they're doing.
they have their Sonic Classic and their Sonic Modern. Then they have weird spin-offs like Sonic Prime, I guess, and Sonic Boom, but Sonic Boom seems to have been a pretty much failed experiment, generally speaking. And then Sonic Prime, I don't know. I guess they're keeping that around in some form if it's going to show up in the racing game. So yeah, you never know, I suppose. But I personally don't expect to ever see the Freedom Fighters or SATAM or any of that kind of stuff ever show up again. But I guess if it does, hey, that's cool.
Guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. That is pretty much a lot of what happens with this series overall.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I hope that answered your question. Yeah, I don't have any other spin-offs or anything I would think of doing.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
have no
yeah. Thanks.
ideas specifically.
But yeah.
Yeah, thanks for answering. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for asking. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Alrighty then. Let's go ahead.
There is another.
I believe they. Wait, let me see.
One from
It's either they're
Supersonic.
from Supersonic, but I know that we're still waiting on until round 2. So, what do you think, Chris?
The text question. The text question is different from people coming up to ask the questions.
All right then,
So
if you say so, go ahead, man.
The next question. All right, from Supersonic. Yeah, you're artist, but did you ever? Actually, another one. But did you have another dream, or did you decide to become an artist yourself?
I've never really wanted to do much of anything besides art. When I was a young child, I had asthma, so I would be in the house a lot more than my brothers were, and I just always liked to draw. So, and nobody ever really said, no, you can't do that. Nobody ever tried to discourage me from doing it. So that's basically the only path I ever reasonably pursued. Took every art class there was in middle school and high school and went to art school, Savannah College of Art and Design, which I'm careful to tell young people you don't have to go to art school to do this kind of thing. It's not necessary, although it can be helpful if you're able to afford it. I was very fortunate to get a lot of assistance, so I didn't have to pay too much of it myself at all, and which, again, infinitely grateful for. But yeah, the main thing about art school is that you can learn in a focused way that's a little harder to do on your own, for sure. You meet people from all over in different places and learn new ways of thinking and looking at art, and you meet other people. The main thing is networking, as they say. It's just like almost any other job. Is as much about who you know as what you know. I mean, I had to have those skills, like I did those comics, like I talked about before, but I also put myself out in the right places at the right times. And those sorts of things were a lot easier because I knew other people who were doing the same thing and working together to make those sorts of things happen. So, but no, I didn't really have, I guess the only other career I would have theoretically considered, if I didn't do any kind of artistic thing at all, I might have gone into medicine of some sort, nursing perhaps. I like to help people. I don't mind getting my hands filthy with gore, or it just seems like a job that I would be good at, and I would not necessarily like, but I would be fulfilled by.
You're doing something for the community. I'm saying, yeah, you're doing something for the community.
Yeah, or music. I would have liked to have learned about music. I didn't really have the background necessary for that. You don't have to, learn piano or whatever from the age of 3, but it sure helps. Start the early, just like with art. Really, the earlier you start, the better. And I didn't have the background necessary to really get into music. It would have taken me many, many years, and I just didn't have the time or the money or the patience to learn by the time I decided to give it a sort of a look at and try, So I have lots of music in my head. I just have no way to write it down, and I don't have the time to learn software either. So maybe another 5 or 10 years, I can start looking at that when I don't have kids to take care of. But that's about it. Yeah, no, that's really those. Maybe music would be the only other thing I'd like to really seriously like to look at doing someday.
As long as you gave it your all and gave your heart at it.
Yeah, I mean, anyone can accomplish anything if you, like they say in Back to the Future, put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. But it also does take a lot of time and effort, and which I'm in short supply of. So realistically, if you want something bad enough, you will make the time for it.
Right.
But I literally don't have the time right now. Maybe again in a few years, maybe I will.
Give it time.
So I hope that answers your question. We can jump on to the next one.
Do you have another question there, Radar? Radar?
Oh, yes. Hello. Sorry again. My sorry, I have my noise suppression on, so sometimes my microphone won't pick up my voice right away at times. Let me see there. Nothing's really coming to mind.
Okay.
We can go ahead and pick someone from the audience until I have something.
Oh, my dog.
Tracy,
I hope that's not too much of a problem.
Oh.
Dog barking.
Oh
You're
no,
fine,
it
you're
is
fine.
totally okay.
So, what's the next question?
Oh, we're choosing someone from the audience.
Okay.
How about you choose one next, Tracy?
Oh, why don't I choose? Okay, well, let's see here. Where's fun? I see here's Ronan. We'll go with Ronan.
Ronan is. Come on
okay, there
up.
we go.
Sick profile picture, by the way. I wonder what that's in reference to. Oh.
Oh, that's the word. How's it running either?
There they are. Oh, and their profile is even more peak. Wow, that's cool. Welcome, Ronan.
Hello.
Can we hear you? Yes,
Hello.
we can hear you. Okay, good.
Like my question is actually for Tracy.
Yes, go ahead.
What has probably been the most hardest work you had to work on?
Ooh, that's
Most
an
difficult
interesting question.
work. Well, I can answer that in a couple of ways.
What was the most challenging and took the longest to work on?
Well, I can answer that in a few ways. It was pretty challenging early on in my career. Like I said, I used when I was doing both riding shotgun and Sonic at the same time. That was pretty difficult. I really don't know how I did it.
World. They all have. They all have something difficult to work on, and like something's always gonna be probably the most hardest thing to work on.
Yeah, generally speaking, in terms of my art, human anatomy is always my weakest point. So anytime I need to draw humans, it takes a little more extra effort. But in terms of actual workload, one of the, like I said, the two most difficult things was both riding shotgun and Sonic at the same time, and then also when we did we were doing the Sonic Genesis storyline, before the reboot and all that. As I was drawing that, and I think I was still working on some other Sonic issues, and I was doing Sonic Universe at the same time. I was doing like basically I think about like 3 books at one time. So that was quite a lot of work to do. It was very, very difficult. Yes. In terms of like one of the most difficult pages I recall ever drawing was from
Ooh.
the Sonic Universe Scourge Breakout storyline. The last issue of that, where there's a double page spread where we see that large vertical corridor where all the
Mhm.
walkways and everything, and all the people are busting out of their cells and everything. That's for
Yeah.
whatever reason that was very, very difficult set of pages to draw right there. That double splash page took me quite a while. I don't recall, probably 10 or 12 hours. I think, I don't know. It was just gave me a lot of trouble.
Yeah, also quick heads up. Yeah, also quick heads up. Like my little profile picture is from Star Wars.
Yeah,
It's Darth.
that's cool.
Yep.
It's
I
Darth.
figured.
It's Darth Revan. It's Darth
Ah.
Revan from Star Wars: Knights of the Republic.
Very cool. And see, it's like animated there while you talk there. That's pretty cool too. Very
Mhm.
neat. Well, thank you for your question.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you for your time, Ronan.
Goodbye.
Take care.
And with Ronan having done their question, I can now go on to mine, which I was able to figure out. Again, don't really know how much you are able to answer about this one, but it's totally okay if you can't. I'm sure I can think of a different question later on. But there was something in IDW Sonic that I have always wanted to know about, and it was rather curious about. It was in the Zeddy Hunt arc, which you worked on with Ian. It was the last issue of the arc. It was when Dr. Starline had kidnapped Belle,
Yes.
and he had taken her to somewhere that was unfamiliar. It had I know a lot of people pointed out it is where you included a very cheeky reference to
Sure. Yeah.
Transformers.
Mhm.
And very cheeky, like wow. And I will bring it up for people to see. I was just rather curious about that whole facility area in particular. Um, did the script ever like mention a name for the place or like where it was? Because like it was just in the middle of
No,
nowhere, and the
I
Chaotix found it so
don't.
quickly.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they found it. I don't. It didn't say in the script, as far as I know, and I don't recall if they said specifically. I think it was just another one of Dr. Eggman's places. I know earlier on, I think the issue with the snow, where Sonic and Silver team up, Starline is like taking old stuff out of one of Dr. Eggman's old facilities, and I think in the what's the initial arc with Surge and Kit, I forget what, Imposter Syndrome. I think maybe it was in there. There's another reference to Starline just using Eggman's old facilities. It's just another one of his places. I don't think it really matters. I don't think it's specified, and I don't think it really matters. We just know that Starline has access to basically any place that Dr. Eggman had ever worked from. So
Oh, I will be completely honest. Is that just that being like, because again, I had no idea where it was. For all I knew, it could have been in it could have been just like uh it could have been like somewhere in like Central City or something like that. But like that being like you saying that it is like it just one of Eggman's bases is more of an answer to me than anything else, and I appreciate just that it's the
yeah,
little
I
things
don't.
that matter to me. So
Sure, I don't think they said. Maybe it might have been nice for them to be a little more specific in the script, but I think given what we had already seen from Dr. Styline, it was pretty well already assumed that yeah, he could just operate it out of any old Eggman base that he felt like. So
I understand that. Yeah, it was just one of the things that was kind of like bothering me in particular about that. Although, actually, just to go back on it, you had mentioned that you said you mentioned issue 14 with Sonic and Silver when they properly meet. Well, when Sonic properly meets Starline and such.
Sure.
Were you saying that it was early? It was an early version of the script that said that Starline retreated to that base, or
No, I don't recall. I think it. I just know that, as I recall, that was the text of the
that
book.
was
That
one of the examples of
he was empty.
Starline?
Yeah, he was emptying out stuff from one of Dr. Eggman's old bases, just of
So,
his own volition. He was like collecting old Eggman junk. Eggman didn't care.
and
He
so
just,
it's more of an example of him using Eggman's bases for his own gain. I see.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. It's illustrated through that story that he has access to Eggman's facilities and he can come and go from them as he pleases or do whatever he wants with them because Eggman doesn't care.
Again, I do appreciate it that again, it could have been as simple as you said. It's just like one of Eggman's bases that Starline is just using out of convenience. So, yeah. Thank you very much. That's very helpful for me in particular.
Yeah, no problem.
Chris, you can go ahead and do another text question if there is one. If not, also I did put the
Let
panel
me
up and
see.
people are already enjoying it. Seriously, that was clever, man. Both you and Ian.
Let's see.
Yeah, there wasn't. Well, before you answer your next questions, to refer to that, there wasn't any mention of it in the script about the matrix of leadership on the shelf there. There was just a line of dialogue that says, "We know there's more to you than meets the eye." So I thought, hey, Transformers, So hey, they were already in a workshopy type of area with their electronics and junk. So I thought I'd just throw that in there for fun,
It's
in
with
that
the
panel
line.
specifically, so you would see it. Yeah.
Amusing.
It's with that line. It's with that line right there.
But yeah, Chris, if there is any other text questions.
Nope. Look, there is none, so we can bring up another person.
All right, go ahead, Chris. It's your turn.
All right, let's bring up LJ. They're one of the people who have been waiting.
LJ the Hedgehog, come on up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep,
Yep,
all
here.
good here.
All right. Mr. Yardley, it is such an honor to meet you.
Thank you.
You've been working with this franchise for quite a while now.
Yep, almost 20 years.
And you're also known for two really iconic moments in the Archie comics. The infamous Shadow Face
Yeah,
and the I got your limit right here.
sure.
Oh, I remember that one.
And my question to you is, in your free time, do you tend to just redraw old panels from your old days of artwork? Like, for example, like redraw one of your favorite art pieces from the Sonic comics?
No, not really. Only in those two instances. One time I did for, I don't even know why, just for fun. I felt like redrawing that limit panel, which I put on social media. I forget. I just thought it was. I recall running across it and thinking, "Oh, that doesn't look great. I can do better these days." So I did that for fun. That was literally just for fun, which I don't often do anything for fun. And then I did recently redraw the Shadow meme face thing so that I could put it on stickers and stuff like that. Yeah, just to have a nice higher quality version of the image. High res. But that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and once again, it's such an honor to meet you. I've been reading these comics since I was a little kid.
I'm glad you could be here today to listen to the Q&A. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome.
You guys have a good
Alright.
one.
LJ.
You too.
You know what? I think that actually prompted me to ask another question, and this one is really on the spot, but I'd really like to know if
Go
that
right
is
ahead.
okay.
That's fine.
So yeah, Tracy, I know that last year you attended our own in-person event for Sonic Revolution.
Yes.
Um, and I was one of the one of, I was one of the people to have met you. I was just putting it there. I was dressed up as Starline, amongst the many folks out there.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool.
yeah. So
I still
I
got
guess I
one of
can
the
also say
comics I
it's nice
got from
to
you.
talk with you again too. But um, towards I'd say around like the middle, like halfway point of the event, um, the Adrenaline Dubs comic dub team went up on stage and they dubbed that moment
Yes, I
on
do
stage
recall
for
that.
everyone. I
Yeah.
have your limit right here. I wanted to know, was it kind of weird just hearing that on stage?
Yeah, it was definitely a little strange, unexpected. It was fun, interesting for sure. I didn't really get a chance to really pay attention to it, unfortunately, because I was busy. But yeah, it's always neat. It's always cool and a little surreal to see people to to know that people enjoy the work that I've done and to see it out there in the world. So it's definitely fun and cool.
Yeah, I remember there's a whole applause and everything. And it's like, wow, you pretty much you've brought this moment into fruition, and people are just will always fondly remember it for what it had done in the story. And yeah, people will resonate with it for as long as they continue to read Archie Sonic. And yeah, and I know I have a friend who'd say the same about the moments that you did with Bell in IDW Sonic. I know I have a few friends who admire your work just as much. Um, and yeah, it's just again like seeing your work just like praised and um giving like all the attention again up on stage. It's just so cool. It's really cool.
It is cool, and
Um
I'm grateful that I've had the opportunity to do these things. There's no reason that I should have been uh, the one to get to do these issues, but I did, and I'm very very happy that I had that opportunity.
and
Ye-
while I'm at it, I'll also put in discussion. It was something that I had shown some time ago, but the same can be said about the fact that your cover for 900th Adventure was up on display at San Diego Comic-Con 2 years ago.
I did
So
see
it's
that.
like
That was really neat. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they'd ever used one of mine for that sort of thing. So that was pretty cool. I wish it would have been nice to see it in person, I guess, but San Diego's a little far out of my way to go.
I do hope
So
you'll be able to I do hope one year you'll get to visit. Uh I I know that a lot of folks would like to see like a lot more of the, people behind a lot of these cool moments for Sonic, and it's like, yeah, I know I asked Ian if he ever saw himself going. So it's like, yeah, I totally want to I would definitely would want to see you there as well.
as far as conventions go, I'm happy to go anywhere where they'll have me as a guest. But when it comes down to my own paying my own way to shows, I generally stick to the Eastern Seaboard around Georgia, South Carolina, Florida area, where I can relatively easily drive to. So.
Mm.
But again, yes, I was very appreciative of last year that they were, had me out to LA for Sonic Revolution. It was wonderful, and I really appreciated it.
And I hope we'll get to have you again for another year.
Well, we'll see. I'll be happy to come if they have me along. And
Mm.
I do see here on the in the audience that we have about about five hands raised. So perhaps we could go ahead and answer their questions, and then after that, perhaps wrap things up.
If
All right.
well, yeah, sure. We should be able to get that done within the time. So, Chris?
All right. Let's bring up Dino Kaiju.
Hey, it's my man. It's my man. Come on up, dude.
I am here with with a question, and hello, everyone.
Oh,
Hello.
Hello. First of all, hello, Radar and Chris. Good to see you as always.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and of course, a pleasure meeting you, Tracy. It is an honor meeting you.
well, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so I actually have a curious question for you. So, obviously, when you started out with this franchise, you started out with the Archie comics. So, you are familiar with a lot of the characters that you worked with, not only with the game characters, but also with the Freedom Fighters and a lot of the comic originals there at the time. But now that you're with IDW, I have the curious question to know is, what was it like drawing a lot of the newer characters for IDW, like Tangle, Whisper, Jewel, Lanolin, Surge Kid, Starline, etc.? What was that like for you? And also
Well,
learning about their new lore and everything.
sure, it's different. That's for certain. I think it's interesting that we, moving forward with IDW, all of the designs fall a little more closely in line with, the video game design and aesthetic. Archie Comics over the course of its many, many years had a lot of different artists and a lot of different styles and all that. So, which I tried to kind of homogenize a little bit when I came onto the book. But with the new characters in IDW, yeah, I think there's some cool designs. I like Tangle and Whisper. Whisper, I think, is really difficult to draw with her layered clothing, the cloak and the mask and the hair and everything. I find her pretty difficult to draw, generally speaking. Maybe not so much now, but at least at the outset, I certainly did. I don't think I've drawn Lanolin one time yet.
Didn't you draw her for the 75th issue in the cover?
I may have. Yes, I may have drawn her on the cover. Yeah, that was probably about the only time I've done so. You're right.
Just not interior wise, not yet.
No,
anyways.
yeah. So I've drawn her one time. Starline is a pretty interesting character. Again, some of the little details at the outset give you a little bit of, like all the little swirls on his boots, the tip of his boots, and all that sort of thing. The front and the way that his he has like a little pins on his little jacket lapels that hold it together or something. I forget. Yeah, he's again a little slightly weird to draw, to figure out. Once you do, he's definitely fun to draw. I like his hair and all that stuff. But
Yeah, that's understandable.
yeah, I don't know. It's just they're very different. Yeah, a lot of different designs, newer ones. I think there's very. I've never drawn. I've drawn Surge and Kit a few times as art pieces, but I haven't drawn them officially yet in the comic at any time. Interesting designs, cool. Not exactly sure how to compare, but yeah, they're definitely different. They're fun, interesting.
Yeah, I assume so, and especially because considering obviously with Surge, people often get compared her with Scourge because they're kind of similar in some way, shape, or form.
Sure, I'm sure I imagine that was pretty intentional to have some similarities there. The green, the spikes, the teeth,
even the blue
attitude.
eyes.
Yeah, so
And then,
Yeah.
if I can comment, yeah, you mentioned. Interesting to know that Whisper is probably the most difficult that you've not anymore, but like at the time. And
yeah. Well, she still probably is actually. I mean, yeah, she's just kind of as far as Sonic characters go, she's a little weird. She's got that mask, which has a very specific shape, and her hair falls on top of it, and her head shape is a little different than most Sonic characters, with the tall ears and the pointy fur cheeks, and her muzzle comes to little points on the ends, which is a little unusual. Yeah, she's got the specific clothing. The Wispin weapon is also pretty difficult to draw. It's just a strange device, keeping it the right size and all that stuff it's a lot. So
I was
Gotcha.
yeah, and I was. Oh, sorry, Dino. What were you gonna say, Dino Kaiju?
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just simply going to comment on the fact is that I know that you did design the girls' outfits for Endless Summer when you
Yeah, the
worked on
beach.
it.
Yeah, that was
And
fun.
Yes.
that was the first time we had seen like more of Whisper's color patterns, because I know Evan Stanley had a specific design for her, like where her legs would have been like fur colored, and there was like a back design that you could see.
Yeah, there
And like
is.
you were
There's
the
a
first
piece
person
of
to
art.
do
I don't
that.
know. I don't know if it's out there, but I've seen the design where they show Whisper's, fur pattern. Like it's like comes down as like a triangle on her back, I think. Like the darker brown. I forget. I think it extends from her muzzle or whatever, and then yeah, like her halfway down her arms. I think I forget off the top of my head. But yeah, my initial design was going to have more of a midriff, an open midriff on her swimsuit so that you could see that, because it's just never had been seen before. But I think they wanted something a little more demure for her, which would match her attitude, more, you know, closed off, as she is, so that she would probably dress a little more that way too. So yeah, but that was
You did
Yeah, I
definitely a
guess that
fun
makes sense.
exercise. Hmm.
I guess that makes sense in a way. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So, and yeah, that was fun, designing their different outfits and shoes and things.
Mm.
All right. Yeah, I guess that pretty much answers my question. But actually, before I go, actually on December last year, I actually got one of your designed T-shirts, and more specifically, I got the Tingle and Whisper one, and I even wore it for when I went to see Sonic Movie 3 in theaters. I'm posting the picture right now, and yeah, it's your
Hey.
design right there.
Very cool.
Nice.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep, there it is. But yeah, thank you so much for answering my question, Tracy. And obviously, I support your work. And yeah, and keep having fun with the panel.
I will. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you as
Take care, Dino
always,
Cookie.
Dino. All right. Next. I will go ahead and choose the next person, and I'll bring up Mars.
Come on up.
Hello.
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 Hi, Tracy. It's nice.
Hi.
It's honest to meeting you, and I seen a lot of your artworks is really amazing. Um, I was hoping I have two questions. The first question
It has to
is,
be one.
oh, okay. Oh, well, sorry about that. So first question is,
You're fine. You're fine.
where, all right, where does the name Whisper came from? From the
Um,
IDW comics.
well, I don't really know specifically. I didn't create the character, but it has, at least in my guess is at least it's at least partly a play on word that she uses the wisp weapons, whisper. Plus, then yeah, just with her attitude, she's always very quiet and yeah, like I say, closed
She was
off.
the recon. Yeah, she was the recon master. Like, if you know what I mean. She did a lot of recon.
Yeah,
And
so
that
she's
normally
a
requires
stealth.
a lot of silence.
Yeah, if she's a stealth agent, she would have to be quiet. So I think that all those various elements play into her name. That was a pretty
Cool.
quick question. I don't mind if you want to go ahead and ask your second question real quick.
Good.
Yeah, but sorry, I have to refresh my brain first because I forget the second question.
Well, that's okay. We can move on either way.
Yeah.
If you want, you can
Oh,
type it down. So if you want to.
oh wait.
Oh.
Wait. Now I have it. Now I have it.
All right, go right ahead, quick.
All right. Go ahead.
When did you start making Archie comics?
Again, I started at the very end of 2005. I was at MegaCon in Orlando, Florida, when I ran into a friend of mine from school, and he knew the editor on Sonic, so he gave me his contact, and I sent some samples, and he let me do tests pages, and then he let me do some Sonic X issues, and then we moved on to the regular book. So that was at the very end of like September, I think, of 2005, whenever I very first started working on the book. So yeah,
Cool.
again, almost 20 years ago.
Wow, almost 20 years ago.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you for your questions. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, and have a nice day. And it's really honored to meet you, Tracy.
Wow, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And have a nice day.
You too.
All right, see ya.
Alrighty then. Would you like to choose the next person, Tracy?
Yeah, let's see. What do we got?
We got James, the Joy.
Yeah, we'll do the joyful songbird, I guess. We'll do that one.
Yeah. Let's get you up.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yep, just
Yes,
fine.
we
Very
can.
clear.
Oh my gosh. Hi. Oh my goodness.
Hi.
Hello, Mr. Tracy Yardley.
Hi.
I want to say first of all, thank you so much for your time as well. And I want to say I've been a big fan of your comics and your art. You're like my favorite artist ever. Like your artwork and your work is so inspiring.
Thank you so much.
And I actually remember I met you before in Sonic Revolution. I was like with my family, and you gave me like a Tails work, and you signed my comic books. I'm not sure if you remember me. I was like the one dressed up like Amy.
I'm sure if I saw you, I'd remember you. I'd meet a lot of people,
Yeah.
but I usually
Yeah.
remember them when I see them.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay, but I'm not sure if you answered this question already, but I'm not sure if you answered my question during the but do you do the one that is like what is your favorite Sonic comic art that you had fun doing the most? It could be either the Archie era or during the IDW era, if that's okay to ask. I'm not sure if you already had that answered.
Yeah, I basically answered that. I think, well, like I said, from the old Archie days, my favorite issues, nostalgically, but also just I'm proud of them, was the old issues 168 and 169, the Order from Chaos story arc.
Oh, and I did notice that.
And I think it
Sorry.
turned out really well. Go ahead.
Oh, then
Hello.
Hmm? Oh.
I think, did she cut out there?
Uh-oh. Songbird? You still there? Uh-oh.
Mm-mm. Well, that's okay. Maybe she'll come back. If you can hear a songbird, you can type out your next question.
I feel sorry for him on that. Alright. We'll move you down. If you did hear that, you can type out your other question. Alright. I'll choose the next one. Come on, James. Oh, look like they're having internet issues.
Could very well be.
The audience. Oh, there
They're back.
There.
Well,
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome
hello.
aboard.
Hello.
Hey, nice to meet you, Tracy. Huge fan.
Thank you.
My question for you is, you spoke earlier about networking and trying to it's about who you know, and I think that was roughly what you said. I can't remember.
I did. Yeah, and
But-
I mean that in general, like almost any business. You know, if you want to get a job, it helps to know somebody who works there. You know,
Right.
or to know somebody who knows somebody. So yeah, what's your question?
I was just wondering, as somebody who's trying to get into your space, as in like IDW Comics,
Mhm.
what would be like some tips as to get into to kind of get the wheel rolling for like networking? Like I guess more along the lines of how to get the attention of the people that you want, if that makes sense.
Well, it's tough to say. I mean, I don't know where you're from or where you live. If you're at, I think IDW is located out in California. So, where do you live?
I'm in
Do you know?
Michigan.
Michigan. Okay. Well, yeah. If there's any way you could go, if you want to meet people in person, I think a lot of those folks live out there in LA or in that area. I think for IDW, but you don't have to meet anybody in person necessarily. In the old days, going to conventions was, the best way to actually meet other artists or get your work out in front of people. But now with social media, I mean, you can follow your favorite artists from IDW, and if you have work that you're confident in, post it up and politely ask them, tag them, say, hey, what do you think? Would you be willing to take a look at my work and review it or whatever? Let me know what you think. And I would tell that if anybody in that position, or if you go to meet people in person at a convention or whatever, bring along your portfolio. A portfolio of work for any comic artist. I don't know if you want to be a penciler, inker, colorist. You want to do the whole shebang? What's your focus?
I guess right now I'm basically shooting for interiors, but I wouldn't mind getting some cover work done.
Well, interiors is what you'd want to shoot for. Covers, if you could do interior artwork, then you almost certainly can do a cover. Interior artwork is just a series of images, so you pluck one of those out of there, you can make it into a cover, generally speaking. I'm simplifying it a little bit, but there are certain little things to covers, but for the most part, what you want to focus on is interiors if you're going to do that. So if you're going to do your own inks, your own pencils and inks, you would want to do like 5 pages of one particular story, right? And then 5 pages of another particular story in sequence. 5 pages of Sonic in one particular scene, or Sonic and Friends, or whatever. Or if you can draw other things besides Sonic, that's fine. That's great. Draw 5 pages of, Superman or whatever doing something. Either having a battle in Metropolis, or maybe he's sitting down and talking to Jimmy Olsen in a diner and they're eating pie. I don't know. And then, another, like maybe 4 to 5 pages of some other story. I would suggest that each section of comics that you do is a different location, different characters, so that way it can show a range of what you're capable of drawing. Maybe have one story again, focus on a cityscape kind of environment, cars and buildings and light poles and people and crowds and stuff, because that happens. That kind of thing comes up in comics pretty often. And then do a different story that's more of a slow-paced, slice-of-life, intimate character moment type of thing or something. And then some other kind of action sequence with some, fantastical sci-fi elements or something. I don't know. Whatever you're comfortable and whatever you want to draw, right? And then maybe 1 or 2 cover pinup type images. Because, again, if you do interior pages, that's going to show the range of what you're capable of drawing pretty well. So that's generally what you would want for a comics portfolio. You don't want to overload the viewer, whoever's reviewing things, with too much stuff. You want to focus on comics, and that's about it. If you want to dial back your pages by just a couple and throw in maybe a couple of pages of concept design type of stuff, if you're good at that, or if you want to do a lot of that in your work, that's fine too, I suppose. You can gear it to whatever you're shooting for and who you want to work for. But generally speaking, you want to stick to mostly comics. So, and again, once you have pages, you don't have to have a whole portfolio, but if anytime you draw a piece of art, it's like, this is amazing. I think this is the best thing I've ever drawn. Post it on social media. Tag the people who you would like to have a look at it. Say, hey, do you mind? Again, politely say, hey, could you give me your opinion on this? Or if you don't want to directly bother people, you say, hey, this is what I'm trying to. I did this because I want to work for at IDW Publishing, and then that'll tag them in there, so people when they're searching for that kind of stuff will see what you're posting, and you could just say, this is what I want to do, and maybe hopefully you'll get people to notice it, build some kind of a following, or again, if you tag in, just say, hey, I want to work for IDW, this is the kind of stuff I want to do, and then if you tag them in, maybe this might be one of the editors or one of the artists will see it and say, hey, this guy's pretty good, and maybe if an opportunity comes along, they might actually seek you out if you've got the stuff to do it. Because you can prove it if you've got the artwork out there to show that you know how to draw and you're willing to draw. You never know.
That's actually really surprising to hear one of the artists have such a I guess that feels more like a bold statement of telling or adding somebody or telling some or I guess tagging what you said.
Like I said, I wouldn't do it all the time, but if you got a very specific thing, like you said, like a portfolio type piece or a set of pieces, maybe you could, again, don't hound them. I wouldn't do that, but you could say, hey, I'm really looking to do this, and maybe could you give me your thoughts or your advice, or you could try to do it with direct messages if their messages are open or whatever, But yeah, I would definitely, if you wanted, it's if you're drawing a set of Ninja Turtles pages and you say, this is the kind of stuff I would like to draw for IDW Publishing, there's no reason to not tag IDW Publishing in there.
Okay.
So, because why not?
Right,
there's
definitely.
Might as well shoot for it. If it's not up to snuff or something, or they don't, they're not interested, they're not going to say anything. But if it is what they're looking for, maybe the right person will take notice. You never know.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Thank you for your time, James. That was great.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Take it easy.
Alrighty. We do have one more person, and then if there is the time, I also have one last question. But let's get done with the last person in the audience, shall we?
All right.
Chris?
Let's see. I did see Songbird come back.
Oh. And we have additional... Yeah. Oh. Wow. I probably shouldn't have said anything.
Well, let's continue here.
Let's make each do the last one. Let's make each do the last one, including your question.
Oh gosh, no, I don't. I can't choose. I can't. I'm a little bit mixed up, actually. Oh, never mind. We have Joyful Songbird back at it.
Hello.
Hello.
I think their Discord might be glitching again.
Oh boy.
Well, I would suggest that if Joyful Songbird would like to ask another question, she can go ahead and type it out.
Yeah,
and we can answer it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But let's try to get the other
Songbird.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two others with their hands raised, 3. Let's answer those 3, and then I think we'll call that about it.
Alrighty then.
If there's any other typed out questions, I could try maybe one or two of those too. But I think for the hands raised, we'll do these 3, and then that'll be it for the hand raising. So why don't we just go down the line? Who do we got? Jonathan,
Vivi, and Tail School.
All right. Well, let's just hit those 3 in a row.
All right. Let's start with Tail School. You're muted.
So we don't have any more problems. Hey.
Hello, it's been a while.
Hello.
What's your question?
Okay, my question is, how did you make Sonic Comet Dust to a book?
Sorry, what's that?
No, like comic books to a book.
How would I make a comic book into a book?
Yeah.
I guess you're trying to ask how did you get into a comic book?
Yeah.
Well, that's difficult to answer. I mean, if you're asking how do I draw comics, essentially, it's a strange sort of thing to do. It takes a lot of mostly intuition about once you read a script and then you draw it as a comic book page. It's just up to me to decipher what's written down and then decide how big each panel should be, what sort of camera angle, if you want to call it that, how the viewer is looking at the characters and all that stuff. And it's sometimes, depending on the script, a lot of times, it might even say that panel 1 is the biggest panel on the page, and then the directions for that panel might say that the characters are arranged in such a way, or that we're looking at them in such a way. Sometimes you do get that really specific direction in the comic book script, but other times it's more vague and it's just up to me to decide. So it depends. It just depends on the story, on what's happening in the story, and it just takes a little. It takes, again. You look at that. You can examine how other people have done comics in the past, and you can use your own intuition and how you think things should be drawn and how you want them to look and what's more important, what should be bigger, smaller, etc. How many words are on the page? You got to leave room for the word balloons and all that stuff. So there's just a lot of things to take into consideration on how you compose and draw a page of comics. I really don't know how else to answer that. It just takes, again, like what we said earlier, practice. Start drawing comic book pages, and the more you do it, the more you will understand how to do it.
Okay.
I think that's about the best I can answer that question. I hope that was helpful.
Let's go.
Hmm?
Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Well, very
All right.
good. Well, thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. I'll bring you back down. God dang it, we got so many other people popping in, wanting enough time for them.
We had Jonathan MM. I know he was asking about something earlier. We can go with that one next.
All right.
Okay, first of all, can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so, first of all, hi there.
Hi.
No, I maybe the first ever, I maybe the first one that kind of, outside of the US. I'm from Israel. I'm from Israel. So, I'm from Israel. Yes. It's far away. And my question is, actually, it's a long question. But my question is, when will you retire?
When will I retire?
When will you retire?
Well, I don't know when I'll retire. In terms of
And
stopping,
will you retire? And will you retire?
I don't really plan to retire in the typical sense.
But
I- I'll continue to draw as long as I'm able to because I enjoy doing the work.
I've been here 20 years. 20 fucking years.
Yeah, I've been doing it a while.
Okay. I'm gonna need to move you back down.
And
Move you back down.
Well, in answer to his
Okay.
question, I don't plan to retire specifically in the traditional sense of stopping doing the comics. There's plenty of room for other people to do the work if that's what their concern is. Again, I haven't really done any in 2 years. There's lots of other people who work on the book, and there's always opportunity for new people to work on the books. So, if anybody wants to, all they have to do is try for it. And then, in terms of actually, will I ever be able to retire? That's probably no, because I'm a freelance comic artist, and so that means I don't have Social Security built up because I pay my own taxes. So I don't have Social Security isn't collected out of my pay. If I wanted to contribute to Social Security myself, I could, but I really can't afford to do that. So I just keep all the pay that I make, and then yeah, I mean, I don't have any retirement plan, 401k, or any of that kind of thing either. So my wife will be able to retire from her job someday, but I will never retire in the traditional sense. I'll have to work until I die, essentially. So that's the answer to that question. We could take maybe one more
One
All right.
more. Oh boy.
from the raised hands.
I think it
forget
would
who else
only
is
be
already
fair to
here.
choose someone who hasn't had their question answered
Sure,
yet.
yeah, of course. And if we
Yeah.
had any other, were there any other written down questions to answer? Or?
I didn't see any new
I
text
don't think
questions.
so. I don't believe so.
No.
Unless they were no, I don't believe anything has come up yet.
All right, well, I'll leave it to you to
wait.
choose our last question here then.
Joyful Songbird, you're gonna have to put your question in discussion though.
Yeah, if Joyful Songbird keeps coming back, if she wants to type it out, that would be better because her audio never seems to work right. So
let me see.
Wait.
Meanwhile,
I'll be happy to answer that one if she has one, but it would be better if she submitted through text.
All right then. Then in terms of people here in the audience, then let's see here. I haven't chosen anyone yet, have I? No, not for a little bit.
Yeah.
I will go with. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I keep screwing up your name every time I come across you. Scimitarch VOs. Yeah. I hope I'm saying your name right. I can't. It is very hard for me to do so. I'm sorry.
They can
I
confirm
get
or
that.
deny.
I get that entirely. It's Arch as in archery.
Scimitarch.
Yes.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Well, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
You're fine. Thanks for being here.
May I first say it is an honor to even speak to you right now. You were one of my
Wow.
favorite artists as growing up with the Archie comics.
I appreciate it.
I would say this is a question
know,
I don't know
that's
if
very-
anyone's
very
asked
nice
you
to
or
hear.
not, but yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Very much so. This is sort of a question, I guess, involving both your Archie run and your IDW runs currently. If you had to pick a favorite character that you've enjoyed drawing, who would it be?
Well, in general, the funnest to draw is always Sonic because he's always doing something energetic and, dynamic. So he's always fun to draw for sure. Other than that, I don't know. I like Blaze the cat. She's one of my favorites. It was really a lot of fun to get to draw that whole sequence of her blowing stuff up in the Battle of Angel Island. So
It is always a treat to see your art style showing through the comics.
well, thank you so much. I'm glad to do any issues that I get to.
That's all, though. Thank you.
Hey, you're very welcome.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Arch. Thank you for your
I
time.
see that we have one more hand raised from Mayo, whatever that is. We can go ahead and answer. We can do that one more.
Oh, all right.
We can do one more.
Mayo.
Mayo, you are
Yeah, but this will be the last one for sure.
yeah, you are one lucky. Yeah,
Hello. I'm glad I
Hello.
made it on time.
Sure.
Also, happy
It's
birthday.
nice to see you for the first time, I think.
Well, I
So
appreciate it.
I got one question. So what inspired you to do Archie Sonic comics?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I picked up the original 4-issue miniseries of Archie in '93 when I was like 12 or 13 years old or whatever it would have been. And I really like Scott Shaw's artwork, which of course is where I stole my exclamation point from. And,
Wow.
I didn't really read a lot of issues too farther past that. But occasionally here and there, as the years went by, I would see him in the comic shops or the grocery store and be like, wow, they still print these. After I got out of art school, I did in fact do a little, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 page, just a little Sonic thing that I mailed off to, I forget who, Gabry, I think was the fellow's name who was the editor at the time. J.F. Gabry, I think it used to be. I never heard anything back, of course, and I didn't really think too much of it, you know. I just kind of did it for, as a whim. Say, hey, why not? And then it wasn't until a few years later, again, that submission would have been in, I guess, 2001. And then I just kind of did odd jobs for a couple of years. I was a little bit burnt out after school, and we were doing that riding shotgun thing. That kind of came about. And again, the story I always tell is I was at that MegaCon in Orlando, and I was just there. We were promoting the Riding Shotgun book and our own Nate and Steve comics that we had drawn. And I was doodling little Sonic characters in my sketchbook, and that's when that fella that I was acquainted with from SCAD came by my table as he saw the little Sonic drawings. He's like, oh, that's really good. I know the editor on Sonic. And that's when he gave me the email to contact Mike Pellerito, and I did, and that's how I got the jobs.
Mike Pellerito, that's so awesome.
Yeah, I was in the right place at the right time. So
nice. Well, I'm glad to finally meet you, and thanks for answering my question.
Yeah, no problem.
Take care now, okay? Peace.
Take it easy. All right, and then lastly, did the Joyful Songbird ever write out her other question? Okay, we can answer that.
Yes, I did.
We
I
can
will
answer
go
that
ahead
one.
and I will go ahead and read it.
Sure.
Here, I noticed that the IDW comics and the Archie comics art style changed over time with different details, less shading, more cartoon anime-esque look. In compare that for IDW, in comparison to Archie, and it's like I guess like what was the process of like changing your art style between Archie to IDW?
Well, that's kind of just, arts. Everyone's individual art style evolves over time, whether you want it to or not. It just does. The more you draw, things change. You pick up new things, or you just try new things, or just naturally, it just kind of evolves over time. When I first started, I think I said earlier, when I first started with the Archie books, my art was a little bit more fluid and organic and rounded and stuff. And part of that was that I did the pencils, and Jim Amish would do the inks on a lot of my Archie stuff early on. And his inking style, Jim Amish is old school kind of guy, and he uses a lot of brush work with his inks. So he does a lot of thick to thin line weight variation. And it's a lot more organic looking. So what his ink would inform a lot of how my stuff looked in the end, Sometimes he would veer off a little bit from the things that I had drawn. So I learned pretty early on to kind of let go and not be too worried about exactly how specific my art was. And then Terry Austin, who's a longtime veteran of comics, also did a lot of X-Men work and various other things for a lot of years. I think his inking style kind of matched up with the way that I draw a little bit more tight tech pen sort of look, and the old Archie books, of course, were done by, again, a lot of more old school comic type people who came from various other backgrounds of comics. Jason Jensen used to do a lot of the coloring early on, and he had a lot more gradients and that kind of softer shading style. Not as much heavy, sharp cell shading anime look, so that all those sorts of things work together to create the finalized look of a comic, right? So yeah, the old Archie comics had a lot of roots in American furry animal type books, that kind of stuff, and American comic sensibilities. And then with the IDW books, you have Matt Herms and various other colorists who had were younger and grown up with anime and Sonic specifically, and so a lot of the inspirations and the way the stuff that these younger artists had come up and grown up looking at and working on were a lot of anime inspired things. Cleaner, sharper lines, more angular, hard edged cell shading. So, and when you work digitally too, for me at least, I tend to, things just tend to be a little bit more sharper, angular, more clean. So all that stuff, kind of adds up to, again, give a different look to the final product for sure. Yes, IDW books are way sharper, way cleaner, way almost machine. They look like they're built by a machine almost sometimes. These artists, they have like really sharp, clean style. We're trying to mimic the Uekawa official Sonic artwork and things like that, And yeah, again, Sonic, Sega is super way more strict about every little detail being very on model to their official artwork and all. I mean, there's a little bit of, they allow for a little leeway with personal style, but not not too much, I guess. And so all of that stuff adds up to a much more anime, hard-edged, clean production for the finished comic books for IDW. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. But yeah, definitely, there's a lot of things that go into why things look the way they do. And specifically with the old Archie, there's older methods, older styles, older people with older ideas. So, just a completely different style. And the new IDW books are pretty much hardcore anime Sonic fans doing an anime Sonic looking book.
It looks good to this
That
day, though.
answers your question, Songbird. And with that, we can now wrap things up. We are now at the end. Thank you everyone in the audience who did get your questions answered. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for those who decided to stick around and just listen in. I know it's very interesting with these panels. Get to hear the almost inner thoughts of people you admire and such. And speaking of, we are very honored to have had Tracy Yardley here for as long as we did. And with that said, Tracy, you are more than welcome to plug anything about you at all right now. To tell the people where we can find you out in the internet, and yeah.
Oh, well, you can find me on Twitter, occasionally. I don't use it as much as I used to because I don't like it that much anymore. But I use Blue Sky. You can find me there for sure. That's where I do most of my posts. I have a Shopify store, as we mentioned before, where I sell a lot of my, convention style Sonic sketches and poster sets and things like that. So you can keep an eye on Blue Sky, and then you'll know whenever I have things to sell. And if you're quick enough, you can grab them before somebody else does. I guess I'm going to be working on a Sonic comic pretty shortly. I'm doing a cover for an independent book, The Misadventures of Helene and Hampt by Jamo. You can maybe look that up if you want to. It's Helene and Hampt. I'm going to do a cover for one of their comics, just kind of for fun. So, they commissioned me to do that, and I thought, hey, this is something different. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. There's some illustration projects that I've done. I can't talk about yet. You keep an eye out for those later on. I don't. They'll come out eventually. But that's
Indeed.
about it. That's about it. Yeah.
Once
Continue
again, thank
drawing
you
Sonic
very,
stuff as long
very,
as I
very
can.
much.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. And we hope to see you at a future Sonic Revolution event,
Oh
either
yes,
online
that's
or in
true too.
person.
Yes, I will be at both the Sonic Expo in both Atlanta and Dallas. Atlanta is in August, and the Dallas show is in November, I believe. Those are the only
I hope
two.
to be able to go.
Yep, those are the two confirmed conventions I have. I might have a couple others coming up. I do have a very small show in Columbia, South Carolina, on July. I forget. 5th and 6th, I think. I don't recall. Maybe I'll post about it shortly. Just a small anime and game convention there in Columbia, South Carolina, at the beginning of July. But hopefully, I'll be back at New York City Comic Con this year. I don't know yet. Nobody knows yet. They haven't announced that who it gets in or doesn't get in. But I'll be happy to go if I get accepted. But yeah, you can check me out at the Sonic
Only time
Expo
will
shows
tell.
for sure. Yep, I'll be at the Sonic Expo shows for sure. And that's about it.
All right.
Alrighty then. Thank you, everybody. And yes. And then since Leah is away, I can go ahead and do this. If that's okay, Chris, I can advertise the next
Go
event.
right in. Yeah, go
The
ahead.
next event will be the RevoTunes night, where there will be a lot of cartoon episodes about parties. So if you're interested in just watching cartoons with our very own staff, then tune into that on this Friday at 3:30 p.m. PST, and you can try to adapt that to your own time zones. With that, we will end it off here.
Alrighty. Well,
You
thanks a
guys
lot.
take care.
So long, everybody. See you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Stage.